Hello everybody, this is your coach of the Eon Guardians, and I'm here today to give you my draft analysis for the SPDA Ubers League. In this Ubers League, we use the same system as the VBL did for their most recent season, where you have tiers of Ubers. There are Platinum, Gold, Silver, and Bronze. I got pick 5 overall, which means out of the 5 Platinum Ubers we allowed, I was guaranteed one of them. And those Ubers were Calyrex Ice Rider, Mewtwo, Lunala, Groudon, and Zacian Hero. Um, and I was okay with getting any of them. But to start off my draft, I got Mewtwo, pick 5 in round 1. Uh, I wasn't expecting to get Mewtwo. I think Mewtwo is top 3, probably, of the Platinum Ubers that was allowed. So getting it as the last Platinum Uber that was around is really nice for me. This is probably the Uber I wanted to use the most out of all the Ubers on the board. Um, but then this thing is incredible. It has a really good speed stat of 130. Its special attack stat is sky high at 154. And it's got decent bulk at 106 HP and then 90 in both defenses. But what really makes Mewtwo so powerful is the amount of coverage it has. It can run spec sets very easily with its coverage Life Orb. It can run Nasty Plot. And has two really good abilities for draft in Pressure and Unnerve. Um, so, Unnerve for the berries and Pressure if you want to run a bulkier set, and so you can recover on some more things. But it has agility, and it has a lot of setup options. It has a lot of utility. It's very Mew-esque, but it's a lot more offensive, inherently offensive. But yeah, so that was my first pick. Going into the second pick, I wanted something that can really help bully the Darks and the Steels for Mewtwo, especially the Darks. Um, because those are the two types that really want to switch in on a Psy Strike. And Mewtwo can push past other Psychics by itself. So I'm looking at round 2, and I really want either a good Fairy or a good Fighting type. And in round 2, what is sitting there on the board left for me? Probably the best offensive Fairy and Fighting type in the game, and Iron Valiant. Iron Valiant making it back to me when I'm 5th pick round 1, and making it back to me for round 2 is quite insane to me. I'm not gonna lie. Iron Valiant doesn't really need any special talking points about it. It hits hard, it's really fast, especially if you give it booster energy and make it boost its speed. It has the ability to run special, and it has the ability to run physical. Another really hard mon to prep for. These two mons together can cover so many of each other's weaknesses that it's really... I think it's unfair that I was allowed to get this duo together. Round 3. I have a really good dark type answer, but I wanted to get something else that could help bully Steels for Mewtwo, because Iron Valiant doesn't really want to be the sole Steel answer because it is part Fairy, so it's still weak to it. So, and I'm also looking at getting a Terra Captain this next round as well, to guarantee I get a good one. And so round 3, I decided to pick up Terra Ursaluna. So the Terra rules in this league is it's open Terra, but we have to disclose our Terra type to our opponents beforehand. And I think Terra Ursaluna is incredibly powerful in that kind of format. It's another really strong wall breaker, but it kind of also gives me more, so I have more to check slower things. So people can't run Adamant Modest or like Bold Impish against me as easily, so they have to speed creep. This thing has a few good abilities. It's Guts and Bulletproof for the main one, but it's another Unnerve mon if I want to use that. This thing's a really good Ghost answer, even if it Terra's out of its normal typing, because it still gets Bulletproof, so it can at least stop Shadow Ball spam. And this thing really bullies down the Steels that Mewtwo doesn't like, and that Valiant doesn't want to be the only answer for. This thing can be ran as a bulky, choose one check, to anything just about, even a lot of the Ubers. Um, or it can be ran. It's like normal Guts, Flame Orb set. And this also, grabbing Terra Ursa Luna also opens up another avenue for another team archetype that I could run later if I decide to draft something for it. So in round 4, I got sniped a couple times. I originally wanted Archaludon in this spot. I really wanted Archaludon, but he gets sniped in like early round 4, which isn't the biggest deal. There's still other steals and other. So I decided to pivot my team around, and I wanted to pick up Quaquaval as my 4th round. But then the pick before me takes Quaquaval, so I'm sitting there for a moment trying to figure out what I really want to draft. And I'm sitting there, I've decided upon Samurott Hisui. Samurott's great. It's another really strong offensive piece on this team. It gives me reliable spikes if it decides it wants to hit Ceaseless Edge. And it hits hard with its Ceaseless Edge. It hits hard with like a Razor Shell or an Aqua Cutter with Sharpness. And spikes really help out this team. It really helps out Mewtwo. Maybe turn some 2-hit KOs into 1-hit KOs. The same for Valiant and Ursaluna. It gives me my first pivot move, which was a weakness of this team so far. It gives me a Flip Turn Mon. It gives me a knockoff Mon, which I already had a couple of at this point. But it's always nice to have more. It gives me a Dark type, so it's another Ghost answer, but it's not really a Ghost answer, because it's not the bulkiest Mon. It's really here to come in, click Ceaseless Edge, Flip Turn, Knockoff, and be a nuisance for my opponent in that regard. Really hopefully force some hazard removal, even if I don't decide to focus solely on hazards as my game plan. Pick 5 is a comfort pick for me. I've won a league with this thing, and I loved using it there. And my 5th round pick, has a lot of good defensive matchups into a lot of Ubers and a lot of top tier Mons. I picked up Skeleturge, so the double starter core going round 4 and 5. Skeleturge is really nice. It's really fun to use. It's an unaware Mon, which will help against a lot of Uber Pokemon. Torch Song can allow it to snowball pretty easily if you want it to be your win con a week. Still gets recover, so it's another Mon that has reliable recovery for me, or it gets slack off. A good Will-O-Wisp spreader to stop physical attackers. A good fighting answer for my Ursaluna and for my Samurott. A good fairy answer for my Valiant and Samurott as well. And Skeleturge really helps out this team because it's probably one of the better Valiant answers in the game because it resists or is immune to both of its stab types. So having it on this team kind of removes the opportunity for another team to have a good Valiant answer. This thing is just, like I said, a comfort pick for me. I love this thing. Very fun to use because it can just kind of sit there and do a lot of damage back. So for my 6th round pick, this is where I finally get my steal. I decide I can't let steals sit around forever because a lot of the good ones are gone already. So I pick up Skarmory, which Skarmory's a good pickup for me here, I think. The biggest issue with this team is my ground type doesn't have Stealth Rocks. It's Ursaluna. And even if it did have Rocks, it probably doesn't want to run it very often. So Skarmory gives me my Steel type, but it also gives me a Rocker. It's my only Rocker, which isn't the best. But again, it's another Mon that has some sort of recovery and Roost. It gives body press. It's very physically bulky, so I have some really good physical bulk here on my team so far. Gives me access to Stealth Rocks. It gives me another Spiker if I want to use it for that, even with Samurott on this team. It gives me another Phaser with Skeleturge, which is something I didn't mention with Skeleturge, where I can use Whirlwind with this or Aurora with Skeleturge to set up sweepers from being able to break through my defensive core. Now, my next pick, I wanted to get hazard removal, and I wanted to kind of roll compress a little bit as well. So next pick, I pick up Tentacruel, another comfort Mon for me. I love this thing as well. It gives me my Rapid Spinner, but it gives me my Grounded Poison as well, and a bulky water because, like I said before, Samurott isn't very bulky. So this at least gives me something that can switch in well enough to the types water resists. Gives me a good ice resist with Skeleturge because my steel doesn't resist it. Um, this is really nice. It gives me another momentum mon, which again, another weakness. Beforehand, it was my only mon was Samurott. Gives me another flip turn mon. Gives me another knock mon. Gives me toxic spikes. Gives me toxic, which I didn't have previously. Rapid spin. I think this thing is a really solid mon. I think it's very underrated to a lot of people, and I love drafting this thing. Um, so my next pick in round 8. I looking at this team, I don't deal with bulky waters very well. And there are some few good ones that have been taken. And open Terra on some bulkier mons means they can run Terra water pretty freely. So this is a lower tier pickup. It's a second Terra captain. And I picked up Terra Electros. Electros is nice for me. It gives me another ground immunity. My only previous switch into ground really was Skarmory. It gives me a ground immunity, but it also gives me another pivot mon and volt switch or U-turn. It's gonna be a nice secondary Terra captain to Ursaluna, even though I doubt it will Terra often, if it comes very often. It can be a really strong setup sweeper. It can be an assault vest pivot. Nice, very bulky electric type too. This team has a very bulky undertone to it. Some people are gonna look at the top two and be like, "Oh, I need to check those two," and then but then they don't realize I have a lot of bulk in the later picks that kind of make up for some of it. And this mon, as well as a lot of the other ones, can help me pivot into my top 2 picks more safely, even my top 3. But Terra Eel would be I think is going to be very fun to use in this league. So let's go on to my 9th pick. My 9th pick is odd to me, honestly. I kind of just picked it up because I wanted another solid dark type, and I got a Spiritomb. Spiritomb's nice. It's another really bulky mon. And 50 HP and then 108 in both defenses. But what it's really good for is its ability to spread Will-O-Wisps and Toxics, and the ability to Hex and Foul Play things down, or even Pain Split to recover things up while weakening opponents. Um, this thing, I don't know if it'll come very often, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of here because I did some grace changes, and I was like, okay, Spiritomb's a nice low tier utility mon. I might as well. It's a dark type that doesn't resist Ghost, but it's fine, I think. It helps me out more with fighting types, which at this point fighting isn't really a big issue for me. Um, but yeah, going into my 10th pick, when I mentioned earlier grabbing Terra Ursaluna gives me the option to lean into another team archetype if I wanted, and I decided to lean into it. Pick 10, I pick up Mesprit. Mesprit is a really nice roll compression mon as my last pick here. It gives me another rocker to help out Skarmory, so that's nice. Gives me a Levitate mon, so it's another ground immunity, which helps out when I don't have a grass type or a bug type or something that resists the ground. So having 3 immunities really helps out. This thing gives me a U-turn pivot, gives me another rocker. But what it really, really gives me that this team appreciates is access to Healing Wish and access to Trick Room. This allows me to control really both ends of the speed war with my Terra Ursaluna, with my Terra Eel, perhaps even with like a very slow Skeleturge. Or if I decide to run very fast builds, I still have my Mewtwo, I still have my Valiant, which can overwhelm a lot of mons quickly together. And the Healing Wish is really nice in case, I use Valiant to break something. It takes a lot of damage, but Valiant is still so good in a matchup. Healing Wish that thing up. Same thing for some of these other bulkier mons. Like if Skarmory or Skeleturge can't find the opportunity to get a Roost or Slack off, I can Healing Wish into them. Get them back to full HP. And makes it really strong. And U-turn pivot again, which really helps out, gives me more of my pivoting. It's a nice bulky-ish one. It's got 80 HP and then 105 in both defenses. Um, Very flexible as well in what it can run. Although it'll probably be its support set 90% of the time if I bring it. But yeah, that will be my draft for SPDA Ubers this season. Uh, Hang tight, because next week I will bring to you the Week 1 battle. Thank you for watching.